Welcome to Praying Through the Bible number 3, Genesis chapter 4, verse 26, a prayer of family legacy. History can be such a cold word, meaning nothing more than facts and figures. The reality is that history is about people, about families, and that is what the future is. That sounds hopeful. Sometimes that includes the past. That is painful. A man is about to have a son. The man's name sounds like given or appointed one, as in, God has given me another child in place of Abel since Cain killed him. Genesis 4:25. Forever Seth lives as the replacement child. Oddly enough, God puts Seth in place of Abel, making him his brother's keeper in place. Enosh name means mortal, as in frail. That is going to be the name of Seth's son. Seth's brother, whom he never met in the land of the living, showed God's word to be true that eating of the tree would bring death. So much history in so short of time, both hopeful and painful. Genesis 4:26 says, a son was born to Seth also, and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. Calling on the name of the Lord means several things, including worshiping, obeying, and praying. If people started to call on the name of the Lord during the lifetime of Seth and his son Enosh, does that mean that Adam and Eve never fully repented of their sin? Here are 3 things that we know. Eve, when naming her children, Cain and Seth, referred to God, to the Lord. 2, nothing good is said of either Adam and Eve after Seth's birth. And 3, and yet Seth learned of Yahweh from someone. Whatever it means, one thing is certain. This family is filled with dysfunction in the worst way. There's a prayer lesson for us, though. Our prayer life is not determined by our past, by parents, or by family history. Each generation can begin calling on the name of the Lord anew. When faith becomes a legacy, that first generation can be held in high esteem for many generations to come. I don't know their names, but in my own family, on my mother's matriarchal side, calling on the name of the Lord goes back at least to Kentucky during the 1800s. And yet, each generation must claim that relationship on its own. Within our folded and our uplifted hands, when we are praying, we can turn our family into a legacy of prayer. Seth's family included Enoch, who walked with God. Genesis 5:21-22. And Noah, the only one found blameless in his generation, who also walked with God. Genesis 6:9 and verse 9 and chapter 7, verse 1. Having children often puts life into proper perspective, one that life itself can bend and break. For many, life gets in the way of living. Making a living gets in the way of living for God. For us, may our life be part of living and praying for God as a family. As they say, the family that prays together stays together. More importantly, the family that prays together stays together with God, hopefully for eternity. Here's our prayer challenge. If alone, pray about family, both present and future. If together, pray together, whether at dinner, bedtime, before you leave on a trip, when you see an accident, before visiting someone at the hospital, or whenever and wherever. Call on the name of the Lord out loud. Pray intently and meaningfully by forgetting our favorite prayer platitudes and memorized prayers. One thing we never taught our children was a set of words they had to say. Prayer is not always one-on-one with God. It can be an entire family with God. Just think, by praying together today, you might one day meet family members from unmet generations in eternity, like I believe Seth has met his brother. And I have a brother I have yet to meet. Build and make your family an eternal legacy of prayer. Start praying. That is Praying Through the Bible, number 3, a prayer of family legacy. This has been a blessing to you. Please share.